was a lazy afternoon in early August in upstate New York at the farmer's market. And you could hear the crickets in the background, and the early rush had kind of died down, so we were just restocking and chatting. Until I heard a small shriek from the front of the farmer's market booth. So I kind of went up, looked over, and there were three individuals up there. You had an older, coiffed woman with a business suit on, buying some produce. You had a younger woman with a small child, a boy, that was naked from the waist down. And I looked over just to see the widening stain on the pantsuit, and the woman say to the other woman, "Oh, don't worry, it's just urine, it's sterile." You know, in doing and managing over 1,000 farmers markets over the years in New York, there is a number of stories I could share with you. But when Meredith asked me to come here and speak, and give a round of applause for Meredith and the team, because this is awesome. The fact that she put this together with, I think, 400 of you here, and the whole event is free. Wow. Thank you, USDA. I guess my taxes are working. So I reached out to my community and about a month ago, and I said, "Hey, I'm speaking at a conference about farmers markets. Share with me your funniest farmers market stories." And needless to say, I got a lot of comments, 209 comments to be exact. And I want to share with you a couple of those stories. Is that okay? All right. So here we go with the first one. This is from Diane. And Diane says, a woman spent 15 minutes searching a stack of eggplant, saying she would only eat the male eggplant. And then that same woman said she only wanted to eat female peppers. Okay. I overheard a customer explaining to another that our lemon cucumbers taste just like lemons, which we all know that they don't. They're just, yellow or white. So what I wanted to share today is I'm going to focus in three areas. The first area is that 6 ways farmers markets help farmers win, and our local food system, and our communities win. Second thing I want to share is I want to share a few takeaways to help you grow your farmers market business, whether you are a market manager, if you are a farmer, or even if you're a consumer, to take back to your farmers. The third thing I want to talk about is a little bit of my story and why I am so passionate about farmers markets. So let's dive right in. First, farmers markets pay retail dollar to the farmers. In an age where farmers all across the nation are struggling, and farmers time and time again, and the rate of bankruptcy is increasing dramatically, especially with the latest hemp craze, and we all saw that one coming, and now we're seeing farmers across the U.S. committing suicide as they're seeing their entire profits plummet as the industry becomes saturated. It's great to see other news that, farmers markets are allowing farmers to take home around at least 90% of the retail dollar compared to the average farmer, which only makes 17.4 cents. So the next thing farmers market help us do is educate the next generation. And, one of the things I was incredibly passionate about was sharing my story with the next generation and educating the youngsters that would come to our farmers market stand. This is just a couple of the customers we had, selecting and then consuming our goods. And I want to share this story about Jack. Now, Erica, who's actually one of my business partners and one of our products, ran our farmers market stall for a number of years for us. And Jack, when he was her son, and Jack started coming with Erica, and he would have a stack of comic books. He would sit in the back of the truck or in the cab on the seat, read his comic books, and snack on whatever was fresh. And the other year, or maybe 6 or 8 months ago, last year, I was on a call with Erica, and Jack just happened to pop in. He's now a teenager, going to school, and he just wanted to pop in and say hi and see how I was doing. But it was that relationship, and now to know that Jack has an education that's been rooted firmly in understanding where his food comes from and how to support the local community, that makes that important for me. These are my kids. This is Charlotte here, who's 5. and Simon, who's 3, almost 3. And this actually picture was for a photo shoot that we did on the farm for one of our products that we put together. And I'll tell you, it slayed it as an ad. But Charlotte is so excited about local food. She loves going out to the garden and harvesting things. The weekly ritual at our house is we go to the farmer's market. I'm as a consumer now because we grow most of our own things in our backyard, but we just go, and that's their favorite thing to do. I think it may be the popsicles we end up getting there, but they still enjoy that, talking to the vendors, seeing what's going on. But one of my daughter's favorite thing is unprompted, is she'll just grab a container and go out to the greenhouse and harvest dinner. And that makes me happy because I know that she now, again, understands where her food comes from and that she, in 10 or 15 years, will be an incredible consumer for you all, supporting you at your farms. So a couple more stories. You know, sometimes it's not just the young kids that need educated. So this is Beth, one of the members of our community, and she said a woman approached her booth, which was piled high with gorgeous vegetables, and asked, "I heard there's a farmer's market in the area. Can you tell me where it is?" They only get better, guys. So Farmer Margie says, a lady came up to our certified organic tent, and 4 tents, big display, and told me our produce couldn't be organic because it didn't have stickers. Normally when stuff like this happens, I can't think of a snappy comeback, but in this case, I just said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but our label bushes have not been bearing well." And finally, Cindy, who says, "My husband was asked if our honey was organic, and then if the bees were free range." Whoops. So another thing is that local produce and farmers market help fresher, safer, higher quality food reach the consumer. You know, this is incredibly important with the health issues we have these days. You know, the average farmers market food travels only 50 miles compared to 1,500 miles for the conventional food chain. That, to me, is a huge win. Why is it safer? Well, one, fewer steps mean fewer opportunities for error. So let's take, farmers markets here. You go out, you harvest the vegetables, you take them to the farmers market, someone buys them. 2 or 3 steps. Well, California, you have a 10,000, 20,000 acre farm. You have the employees go out and they harvest with a massive bandsaw into a tractor trailer salad greens, which go to the processing plant, which goes from the processing plant to the wholesaler, which go from the wholesaler across the country to another wholesaler, which go from that wholesaler to the distributor, from the distributor to the grocery store, 5 or 6 people touch it, and then finally, the consumer buys it. So to me, having 3 steps in a food chain compared to what, a dozen, is a much better, safer system. And it also provides that excellent traceability, too. And look at this. This is according to the Farmers Market Coalition. This is the number of outbreaks, food safety outbreaks, between the farmers markets as well as the conventional food system. Which do you think is the farmers markets? Yes, the blue one. Another thing farmers markets allow is the opportunity to sell highly perishable and very local items as well. So these are squash blossoms. I'm going to tell you a little secret. We made more money on our farms from the squash blossoms than the rest of the squash plant. And this is hibiscus flowers. This is something you use in teas and tinctures and stuff like that. You can make hibiscus syrup, which is amazing as well. And this is another thing that's very locally, regionally known. It's not something that's in the grocery. And I know farmers that are making bank with this at the farmers markets. And again, those farmers markets are giving them those opportunities. Salad mix as well. The salad mix you buy in the store, usually 3 to 5 days for shelf life. The stuff that you get from the farmers market, our customers would swear it was 2 weeks, and I know some farmers who can achieve 3 weeks of shelf life on their product. So again, huge difference. Another thing the farmers markets give us is instant feedback from your customers. What we were always asking is, what do our customers really want? Do they want big bags of salad, small bags of salad? First, what will they buy? Can we interest them enough to actually buy this? And then secondly, will they buy it again? Because that's the true test right there if they'll buy it again. So a couple things we tried is we heard you could sell pea shoots. And this was before we knew you're supposed to buy them and grow them in a tray in the greenhouse. So we went out to our cover crop field and just started hacking the peas. Well, that didn't go over too well. The customers came back the second time and said, no, they're tough. You can't eat these. The other thing we tried, and this is a tip for you guys, this is well worth the price of admission, is catgrass. Who here sells catgrass? Anyone sell catgrass? Oh, we printed money with that as well. So what we did is took wheatgrass, grew it in little 3-inch pots, or little specialty pots, and sold it for cats or dogs or as pet grass. And we would actually make the amount of money we needed to drive to and from our 4 farmers markets every single week with just the money we made off catgrass. And I do own the domain organiccatgrass.com. So, but feel free to pick it up locally and do it because it's a huge hit. Another thing is farmers markets build community. And this one's especially important to me. In an age of iPhones and social media, there's less and less time spent face-to-face. And I think that is a reason our country is where it is today, with the vitriol and the just incredible fighting. And I feel like if we could spend more time face-to-face at farmers markets, that there would be a lot more understanding. This is a picture of Matt. Matt and his wife came to the farmers markets a couple years after we started, and they were trying to start a family, and they got to know us, and they started working for us. This is the picture at a deployment party for one of our other friends, where we were cooking a local pig. It's these kind of relationships which farmers markets help start. Did you know that people who shop at farmers markets have an average of 15 to 20 social interactions compared to 1 or 2 at the local grocery store? And with self-checkout, you don't never need to talk to anybody at the grocery store. Did you know for every dollar spent at a small business in the U.S., roughly 67 cents stays in that local community? So this is another story right here. So this is my little friends, as I would call them. And they were a Navy family that was deployed locally to us. And eventually they had to leave because they were deployed someplace else. But they came back a few months later and said, Michael, the vegetables we get are just not the same. The kids will not eat the carrots because the carrots they got from me were Michael's carrots. It was not the carrots that they were getting at the other farm. So, I always had fun when they came and visited, and we chatted about what they were doing, and then we'd stock them up with a whole full bag of veggies to take home with them. Another thing about farmers markets is they are a small business incubator. Compared to, let's say, a wholesale channel or even the CSA, where it really takes more of an established farmer or an established business, farmers markets allow people, even here locally, to scale rapidly. And if you haven't recognized this stall, it's Carrie, who's here, who we've been privileged to be part of her story over the last couple of years and watch her grow. And then another one is my friend Ray Tyler. Now, Ray Tyler is actually in one of the poorest counties in Tennessee, and where tomatoes go for 50 cents a pound. And people are excited if they can make a couple grand an acre on their farms. And Ray's making a heck of a lot more than that on his 1-acre farm in Tennessee. He provides for his family and for several full-time employees as well. But how Ray uses farmers markets is, yes, he sells wholesale, but every so often, especially because of where he is, those wholesale processes and those customers just fade away. And so then he just goes back to the farmer's market, just expands his stand, and he kind of uses it as that valve for his farm to allow him to make enough money when he needs to and he can't sell those wholesale crops. So Ray's a fabulous farmer. I encourage you to definitely follow his Instagram. He's got a fabulous what he shares and just his heart there as well. And the farmers markets is incredibly for us as well. So this is a picture of summer of 2011. And as anyone who has been on the East Coast in 2011 members, there was a hurricane that decided to climb up the East Coast and settle over Vermont. And in 12 hours, it dropped 12 inches of rain. And if you know Vermont, it's all hills and valleys. So that rain had nowhere to go. It poured into the valleys and started pouring through our fields. And so this was about noon, and it had just crested the levee that we had just built to try to prevent it from flooding our fields. This was the next morning. It had covered 4 acres of our production and literally cut $108,000 from our sales for that year. It was devastating, to say the least. But it was farmers markets and the flexibility that we had with farmers markets and our customers, the customer community we built within that supported us through that next winter and allowed us to get our business going the next year. And actually, that next year, we had our most profitable year ever. All right, so farmers markets have also helped launch many small businesses. You can see here, these are some national-only brands. And this is my wife's favorite, Jenny's Ice Cream, who got started at a stall in the Columbus Farmers Market in Ohio, as well as Franklin Barbecue, who is a fixture all across the nation. And they had a period of their time where it was farmers markets that gave them that next step in their journey. So where do we go from here? So just recently, I had a call from a friend of mine who did farmers markets with me for a number of years in upstate New York. And, he'd been doing them for over a decade, and he was getting tired. He was worn out. He'd had some family challenges, and he was like, Michael, what do I do? And so what I want to share with you today is the exact advice I gave him, because I think it's the path to people who are just starting, who are in the thick of farmers markets and enjoying it, or who want to take their farmers markets to the next level to make that next step. So where do people find you? So obviously, if you're going to the farmer's market, they might just walk by you. Or they can drive by your farm or find you on Facebook or grocery stores or food hub sales. But the worst is if they come to and just buy from you once, and then they disappear. And so our goal, because customer acquisition costs are very high, is to figure out how can we extend that. So let's talk through a little bit of a customer journey. So let's use a customer called Emily. She sees you at market. She buys that bunch of radishes. She likes that bunch of radishes, comes back. She buys a bunch of radishes, and now she buys a bag of lettuce, and she signs up for your email list. And then she sees that you're offering an on-farm tour. So then she comes to the on-farm tour with her kids. She brings a friend, and she enjoys that on-farm tour. Well, the end of her journey, or it's not the journey at the end, but it's now she signs up for your CSA, which obviously is a lot longer commitment with your farm. And your whole goal as a business is to build as much long-term investment income in your farm as possible, which in many small vegetable farms is a CSA. Now, that's great that her journey is this, but also, look, she introduced Amber to you. So goal is now that Amber starts coming to the farmer's market, all right? We'll come back to this in a bit. So what I'm going to say is build your email list, build your text list, build your messenger list, build a customer list that you can sell again and again to. And I could go on for an hour on why this is so important, not just for growing your sales, but also being able to leverage and empower your community. But this is important. This is very important. So we really want to focus on building a raving fan. Now, what we've got here is we've got someone who sees you at the farmer's market. That's like a 1-star. Someone who sees you at the farmer's market and follows you on Instagram. Now they have 2 connection points. 3 connection points, they're now in your email as well. 4 connection points is they're a raving fan who's stalking you on social media and literally comes to your farm any chance they get. Do you think that customer is going to help you grow faster than this customer? Absolutely, absolutely. So here's a great example of a raving fan. So had citronella plants at the farmer's market. I had an elderly gentleman come over and say, is this a weed plant? Then starts calling his group over one by one, hollering, this little gal has the weed you are looking for. I almost peed my pants in public that day from laughing so hard. Sold all 50 citronella plants we brought, I think thanks to him. So I gifted him the biggest one and loudly exclaimed, thanks for helping me sell all my weed. The kicker, there were several police officers standing just there. Do you think that guy's a raving fan? Do you think he will be the next day? So what I like to talk about is something I call a circle of awesomeness. And this kind of goes back to that customer journey a little bit. But we talk about Emily, who sees you at the farmer's market. She buys that bunch of radishes. But she loves that presence that you gave, the experience she experienced with you. So she now talks about your products and uses your products when she goes to another location and shares that information with her friends, who then sign up and want to find out more about you and your farm. So you really want to focus on that circle of awesomeness. And how am I doing on time, guys? I'm doing okay. I guess I'm doing okay. So what I want to talk about is that 90% of people trust suggestions of family and friends. So last week, I was just in New Orleans. And New Orleans has a lot of good food. But, me, I'm not from that location, so what do? Well, The Uber driver, where do I eat? The Uber driver tells me the first place to eat, and then after that, it's a chain reaction. I'm asking every establishment that I eat at whether there's other places that they suggest I should go. Now, did I go on Yellow Pages and look up the names of restaurants there? No. Did I get a Facebook ad that told me, come eat at this location? No. I went off the recommendations of people that maybe I met them recently, but I trusted them. So this is how you're going to grow, is by finding people and building that circle of awesomeness, and then they are going out there and pulling it for you. So let's talk a little math here, a little marketer math. So let's say you want to gross $100,000 on your farm. Who would love to do that on their farm? Awesome. All right. It's not that hard. All you need to do is make $20,005 sales. But would you rather make only $100,000 sales? On our farm, our highest price CSA was $1,200. We did not need that many sales of a $1,200 CSA to make $100,000 on our farm. Always be focused on increasing the average sale value of the transactions. So what you need to do is after they buy an initial offer from you or initial product, what can they do next? Always have the next step for them. So they buy your product, can you sell them the CSA? Did they just give you their email to find out more about your farm? Can you say, hey, bring a friend, I've got a discount coupon for them when they come? Have they visited your farm store? Well, can you ask them, here's a card to shop online. You can get it actually delivered to your door so you don't have to come out to the farm again. So you're always thinking about the next steps or secondary offers. So a couple obvious things we can do for next steps is an online store with drop sites. We can do a year-round CSA, farm experiences. I was talking to a vendor last night who was talking about the on-farm experiences she offers. And I was like, you have to start charging for that. I said, there's an amazing opportunity to up these experiences on your farm. People are dying for that experience. Did you know that at Polyface, one of the Poly's farm, the farm I interned at in Virginia, who is Joel Salatin's farm, one of their biggest sellers is their lunatic farm tour, where I believe they charge now $20 a head. It's 100 people, I believe. And so that's every time Joel gives a 2-hour tour, that is $2,000. Again, it's being done. You can do it. Goat yoga. Who would have thought of that 10 years ago? I'm sure there's a few goat yoga enthusiasts in here. All right, so membership club, farm plant sales, farm swag. If you're not selling farm swag, I highly encourage that as well. It's another great way to build a brand as well. So back to our customer journey. You know, we kind of flow through this. This is, for us, this was the highest offer, is that CSA, getting them to sign up for an entire year's of vegetables with us. Now, example here, this is my friend Ray again. Ray is using this on his farm. Yes, he attends farmers markets, but at farmers markets, he is pushing them to sign up for an email list, which then pushes them to this online store. He is doing several $1,000s a month through that online store, delivered directly to people's homes or to their community drop points. So it can be done, even in very poor rural Tennessee. All right, so I want to give you 3 action steps real quick here. First one is build your email list. At the end, I'll have a template you can download that's basically this in Canva, and you can just change out your information. Build your value ladder. For us, it was one-time farmers market sales, grab some farm swag, attend an on-farm dinner, subscribe to our CSA. If you don't have a CSA, if you're not a vegetable farmer, it could be subscribe to my Jam of the Month club. Or you have 3 jams you stick in a box that you include some recipes on how to use those. Again, always think of what other things you can offer. For so long, I had been told that you could not make money at farming. I had been told that farming was for the blue-collar person, was for the people that couldn't graduate college. And my grandparents were very pointed in telling my parents that, you know, your kids need to go to college. They need to, get a career, because they saw us out in the backyard tilling things up with our rototiller. And I do have to say, you know, my grandfather, after he died a few years later, but before he died, he did end up saying to my parents, he said, you know what? I am incredibly impressed at what they have built, because he said, I had no idea that you could do it this way and make money. But, you know, this right here, we were still poor. We didn't have a ton of money. We used my parents' truck. We used banana boxes to haul our produce to farmers market. It was a new one every week, guys. Plastic. But this was the Thanksgiving market. That's how many banana boxes worth of produce we had sold that day. So that year, we put all our money back into buying this greenhouse. The man had 4 greenhouses. This was the cheapest one. We could only buy the cheapest one. We were very disappointed. He sold the other 3 nicer ones to somebody else. Next year, we bought an even bigger greenhouse. This is that next year. And the year after, another greenhouse, an even bigger greenhouse. So we were well on our way to making this a multiple 6-figure business, and there was a lot of ripples. So farmers markets were a key part of our business. We had 90% of our income on our farm came through our farmers markets. We sold a mixture of plants, vegetables, fruit, and flowers. And we were through a few tough times. This was a farmers market where the farmers market flooded. We were standing in 4 inches of water through that entire market selling. But the farmers markets opened opportunity for me. First, to reach out to broken people in our community. This is Christina. Christina had a son, Miles, who had incredible food allergies. When she went to Chipotle, which was one of the only places she could actually get food for him, she had them wipe down the entire line to make sure there was no wheat or dairy or any of the things that he was allergic to. But our food was one of the only food sources that she trusted. And so she started working with us. She eventually became our CSA manager, did that for a couple of years. I ended up talking to Christina a couple of years ago, and she said Miles is now 100% free of all his food allergies, which is awesome. So that was a huge win. Second win is our team. So our farm, the majority of the labor was from teenage boys. We had a lot of teenage girls too, but some of the boys are better for the hard work in the field. The girls had faster hands though. I will say, they got stuff done. But we always had team lunch on Fridays. And we first started it at our house. We did pizza day, and then one of our employees' moms actually said, come on over, I'll cook a lunch every single week for you. So we did it as a team. And we put several of our employees through college. Yes, not the most expensive colleges, but they still, a significant portion of the tuition came from working for us on the farm in the summers. And research. Research is something else I'm incredibly passionate about. Really one of the biggest reasons I now still farm, even though we have plenty of local CSAs I could get produce from, and they're great, is because I just love messing around with things, and I'm always trying something new. This year we grew cotton, and we grew peanuts. And we didn't do too well with either, but it was more for the experience anyway. But while we were in New York, we worked with Cornell University on a couple projects. We worked with NOFA New York and NOFA Vermont on a couple things. And we were one of the original testing points for the salmonella lettuce when it came into the U.S. in 2012. We were one of the 8 secret locations. So that was kind of fun. So in 2012, I like to say I had my quarter-life crisis. I went to Polyface because I was focused on how could we take our farm to the next level in regeneration. I wanted to bring animals into that, and we're a better place to learn than Polyface. And through my past 10 years on the farm, I kind of hacked the application, got there, met my wife, we got married, we had a daughter, and 2 years later, she wanted to be near her family in Ohio. So that was one of the toughest things I did, was to take that step. And actually, there's a lot more backstory I could get into, but I don't have time to for today. Another project I wanted to share with you, though, was the Pitney Meadows Community Farm. So as we were building our farm in New York, we were about an hour from the market. Saratoga was kind of where our market was. And we knew that we could make a much bigger impact through agritourism and on-farm events and just better sales if we were in Saratoga. So for a couple of years, we were looking for a location. And then we came across this location. This is the Pitney Meadows Farm, which was located on the edge inside the city limits of Saratoga. It's 166 acres, a mix between open field, farm buildings, some woods, some creeks. The only problem, the purchase price was kind of expensive. Every single developer in that area, where a single lot would go for almost $500,000, were salivating over this piece of property and just waiting for the day for the Pitneys to die and the children to sell it to them. Well, through an incredible network of people and just incredible tenacity, we raised $2.3 million and preserved this farm into perpetuity. That is one of the things I am most proud of. Because this farm will forever be educating new consumers, new omnivores, new vegetarians, whoever they are. It's an open place for everybody in the community. It will, instead of being just a row of McMansions, which Saratoga has enough of, will always be growing crops. And so I am incredibly excited to have been one of the founding board members of this, and now that I'm not as involved in this project as I was, still to see them do very well with the property and continue to build it out and expand it. So I also today get to work with hundreds of farmers around the U.S. and around the world. This is out in Oregon. Actually, this is in Oregon as well. This is hanging out with Josh Volk, who's one of the old-time farmers and does had a ton of tool inventions online. We've been working with Indian Nation. So this is Indian Nation down in Mississippi. I got to help them work on a farm for their communities. So I've had a lot of incredibly exciting experiences working with the farming community. But I still have my roots in the soil in my backyard. And this is the actually larger acreage which we picked up last year, to start growing larger amounts of crops on. And we did a really good job with the sunflower field, and we had thousands of people come to take pictures, which was a lot of fun. But I want to share this picture. This is a picture of a probably 17-year-old boy who really didn't know what he wanted to do with his life and just started growing some vegetables. In fact, I never really wanted to be a farmer when I started. I didn't think I did, at least. I thought I wanted to be the firefighter, the police fighter, a jet pilot or something like that. But it was through all the farmers markets experiences, the opportunities that it gave me to go to that next level, which allowed me to helping farmers all around the world now. We are not only at a farming crisis in this world, we are at a health crisis. The farming crisis is that farmers are going bankrupt every single day, that the food we produce in many cases is not fit to eat, that we have diseases ravaging from the swine flu to the bird flu that are really putting a lot of our farming systems in peril. But we also have a health crisis, a crisis in the last 3 years that every single year the life expectancy in the U.S. has gone down for the first time in forever, which is not good, which is scary. We have a crisis of our children, of getting incredibly higher and higher rates of autism and all these other allergies and just food challenges and problems. So what I want to talk to you about is why are farmers markets so important to me? Because farmers markets are the easiest way for the new army of farmers that we need across the nation and around the world to get started. And it's the easiest way for consumers who are looking for a clean source of food and to connect with their food to meet that farmer face to face and develop that relationship. So that's why farmers markets, to me, are important. Thank you.